Hello again, and welcome to our weekly edition of SCLC TV as the pandemic continues to plague America, if not the world. To discuss that and other issues today is our President and CEO, Dr. Charles Steele Jr. I'm your host, Maynard Eaton. Dr. Steele, the civil rights movement, is it suffering from this pandemic as well as other folks and other issues and other businesses?
Yeah, of course, Maynard, because when you talk about civil rights, you're talking about a business. Many people don't understand that. We're in the civil rights business. And even though you're a nonprofit or whatever people may perceive, you run a business. And if you don't understand that, you won't be in business long. So I just thank God that we haven't laid anyone off as of yet, due to the fact that we are managing very closely and carefully in terms of our resources. And, you're talking about a rainy day fund. We live from day to day because with that type of concept, you don't get carried away when you have a good day because the rainy day is coming. If it's a pandemic, epidemic, or if it's a business closure, when our companies that supports us goes out of business, but when they downsize, then we have to downsize. So yes, to answer your question, is no entity within this society of America and ultimately the world that's not being affected. So when you affect the church, you affect us as well. When you affect the funeral home, and I'm in the funeral home business, you affect us as well. When you affect the major malls, the commerce of this country, you're affecting us because these are the people that support us. And we're here to let people know that you can't run nothing. You can't even run outside without resources. When you run, you have to have resources.
But you still have folks coming to us, knocking on your door, whose rights have been gone against, been offended. That people still need our services, right?
Absolutely. Even though we don't have any money, and they are crying because they've been ripped off from the system. Let me just say this, Mr. Eden. This system has been rigged for 79 years or more, but basically 79 plus in terms of rigging the fact, well, the rich get richer and the poor gets poor. That's why we're in the predicament that we are in right now. The predicament that we are in didn't start with the pandemic, pandemic that we have. It started many, many years ago. And for 79 years, continuously, this system has been rigged by those who are considered the high echelon and those who are considered Wall Street, Main Street, and those with the resources. They have lobbies. They have people to advocate for them. The only lobbies we have happen to be our mouths and what we're doing right now. We can't afford lobbies, even though we have volunteer people in Washington, D.C. that works with us. We have some outstanding congresspersons that work with us, but that's not 24/7. These people who have all of the money and the commerce and the resources of the world pay their lobbies very well, and they advocate for them. That's why this system is rigged. That's why you have a vacuum there. There's no middle in this system. You're either rich or poor. There is no middle class. Talking about upper, you might be upper of the poor because in the poor's of segment or the totem pole within this stratification of society in America, you must realize that the system was not for poor people. In this system, you have the poor and you have the poor. I've talked about this many times. One of my friends who lives on the street, and I communicate with all people of concern. That's why you must have a holistic approach to this thing. Every time I see someone on the street, living on the street, eating out of garbage cans, I stop and pray to God and say, God, make me an instrument to listen, first of all, then to be a vehicle or instrument to deliver not only this individual, but those who are less fortunate than others. That's what you call poor. Now, we might have some food for this week, don't know what food coming from next week, that's poor. We might be able to pay a few bills on the first, that's poor. But when you don't have any money to pay anything, that's poor.
Dr. Steele, you've talked about during this crisis, the government's handed out money supposedly to small businesses, but you're saying, others allege, there's been profiteering, that poor folks have not gotten their fair share. Small businesses have not gotten their fair share. Is that true?
Well, first of all, the Los Angeles Lakers are not a small business. And there are other examples that I can give. I think it's Ruth Chris, and it goes on and on and on. And the language that was put in there specified 500 employees or less, but it didn't say anything about you are not going to qualify or classify for the PPP, the Payroll Protection Plan, if you have companies all over the United States of America. So I might have a company in New York that might have less than 500, or I might have even just 100. So I qualify. But then it doesn't talk about, I got a company in 10, 12, 15 other states, maybe 50 states, and I can qualify individually in each one of those states. This system is not fair. And that's what Dr. King was talking about. This system and this government is the enemy.
Many folks are hurting. Small operations are complaining they've not gotten money. What's to do? How do we correct that?
Well, first of all, people must organize and unite and forget about who leading the charge. Forget about, I didn't get an invitation for the meeting. You have to put aside your politics. It's too much interruption at the lower level, man. And that's what the system does. The system will take care of a few concerns and say, oh, the system is working for us. But then the masses of people are hurting. In many cases, we're starving. So I tell people, if I don't have a seat at the table, I'm going to bring a folding chair, but I'm going to get to the table. You might not have a seat for me, but I'm going to do that. I tried to do that in one meeting at a particular church that I won't call. And then as soon as I started to go into that meeting unannounced, and there was some heavyweight people politically, someone pulled my coat like I was talking overtime in the pulpit. But they pulled my coat and said, you can't go in that meeting. And I refused to make a scene. So I'm saying I'm willing to break the culture. The culture that we're living in totally discriminate against those who are less fortunate than others, poor folks.
We talk about essential workers. Many of us believe those are doctors and nurses and policemen. But poor folks are essential workers as well. People like garbage workers and things of that nature. How much are they hurting? How much are they putting their lives at risk to benefit most of us?
And the maintenance workers in the grocery stores, in the hospitals, the people who pick up our garbage every week. If you don't think they are very essential or significant to our society, let the sanitation workers go on strike and see what you get. You'll have another pandemic because all the diseases are going back up to your homes, inside your homes, and throughout the community. So we need to stop the stratification of looking down on folks, Mr. Eden. And this is where we as a people must understand that you have to love everyone and everybody. And the best way I can say is that you got to be Christ-like. Too many folks saying that they are Christians, but they ain't helping nobody. They're not Christ-like. And all I'm saying is that we as a society can't expect politics to free us. They just proven this a few days ago, a few weeks ago. Right. You're not even on their conscience. You're not even on their radar when they rigged the system to give all the money to the wealthy. And they want people to be subservient to them. We are subservient to the people with the power. And if you're in office and you don't own any property, if you don't own any skyscrapers in our major cities, then you need to join our team. You need to come to us because you can't transfer what you got as a political representative. You can't pass that on so your children and your family can inherit that. What are you going to do for them? You might be okay for the next 4 and no more, just for a few days or a few years. But you need to be out here with us. As Dr. King was telling one of the security guards when he was in Birmingham, he said, oh, my Lord, let me ask you a question. He was locked up in jail. He said, how much do you make weekly as a deputy sheriff in this system? He told Dr. King, he said, oh, my Lord, you need to come in here with us. You know, they using you to fight us, but you need help too. Like my grandmama say, hope us. Let's go and hope people. Let's give them hope. That's what the old folks were talking about. We thought they were breaking and cracking a verb, you know, but they knew the importance and the significance of hope. Tell them to hope us. And that's heavy, man. That's why we need to know our history.
Dr. Steele, what I hear you saying in conclusion is that civil rights groups and human rights groups like ours are needed now as much, if not more than ever. Is that what I hear you saying?
Absolutely. Because the ugliness of racism, poverty, and militaristic, when you're talking about the military, you're talking about all control. It's all about control, Mr. Eden. The whole world trying to get the ups on the other country or region of the world. These people are intoxicated with power. And we're telling our folks, who are our folks? Fair-minded thinking folks of all ethnicity and background and culture who want to do the right thing. Politics has never freed the oppressed without being pressured. We got to free politics. Politics cannot free us, and they won't do it. We got to make them do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to Dr. Charles Steele Jr., the president and CEO of SCLC. This has been SCLC TV. I'm Maynard Eaton. See you next week.